So you're not a spy?
No, I'm not a spy. And if I was a spy, I'm sure not getting paid enough. So
You first were a Christian, then you converted to Islam, Salafi Islam, then you moved to Hanafi, Shafi, and then you became Shia, and then it's so interesting. You are the only real American theologian here in whole Iraq.
I was worried because from both of them, the Salafis and the Sufis type of people, they always say Shia, just do not go anywhere near the Shia. Whatever you do, just don't go anywhere near the Shia.
Because you've said you had the feeling of jumping from one thing to another, but eventually this is the only way to get to know the truth.
ليس كمثله شيء. There's nothing like him. As opposed to Christianity, they'll say, yeah, there's nothing like him. They also say he's a father, he's a son, he's inside me, he's over here, he's over there, he died, he rose again. To be honest with you, I kind of just got bored with Christianity after a while, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Nice to have you here in this podcast. Today, I want to introduce you to a very interesting person. I've had the pleasure to know for about 2 years since I've moved to Najaf. And this is a sheikh basically coming from Pennsylvania. And he's, in my opinion, one of the most interesting persons I've met ever. And therefore, I think in this podcast, we want to get to know each other again somehow, and also the viewers. And so basically, tell us, what is your backstory? How did it come that you came from Pennsylvania here all the way to Najaf?
Well, thank you for having me. And so Pennsylvania, for maybe people who don't know, it is a state in the United States, mostly farmland, country-wise, in the forest type of land. It's a farm country, right? It's
Actually, you have all the hillbillies there, right?
yeah, that's what they say. It's in the backwoods, hillbillies, rednecks, that type of stuff. So I'm from a small part of Pennsylvania. The region's called the Pocono Mountains. So I'm in it's a far north region, close to New York, New Jersey, northern New Jersey. And so I basically grew up there my whole life. I was born into a middle-class, white, conservative, Protestant Christian family. And I grew up in a very religious household, strict Christian values, strict conservative values, far-right values. And, to give you an idea of what that was like, a clear image, it's every Sunday church. Every Sunday evening is, night church and Sunday school, and Wednesdays you have youth group and church services, and every summer is Christian camp, and so things like this. Our house was very strict as well. Everything was very, how to put it in simpler terms?
Conservative somehow, right?
Conservative, very religiously cultured. As you would imagine, more old school Christians used to be. Back in the day, in the 60s, 70s, back when people had more, culture, there wasn't very much liberalism and things like that, and these new ways of thinking was very traditional, very strict. Everything's by the book, by the Bible, and so to speak. So I grew up in a house like this.
And just to mention it, right now your name is Abdul Hussein. But
Yeah.
what was your actual American name?
So obviously, when somebody converts to Islam, especially to Shiaism, they like to change their names, as with most converts. Even like the famous boxer was Cassius Clay, then he became Muhammad Ali.
Right.
So likewise, when I converted, my original name was Brannon, growing up. But after I converted to Islam, I decided to take the name Abdul Hussein, the servant of Imam Hussein, peace be upon him. It was a name that I thought was very, intriguing, different, and I thought, what better way to, embrace the religion of Shia Islam, than with the name of the servant of Imam Hussein.
That's right. We will right now, in a few seconds, we will come to the story, how it came that you converted.
Sure.
But the interesting part, you also, because I'm from Germany, right?
Right.
And your ancestors basically also came from the same region of Germany where I came from the Schwarzwald region, right?
Right. So, based on my research and what my ancestors have told me, my grandmother, my grandfather, my father, our roots do go back to Germany. And so my ancestors were from the first settlers in the United States of America, before they called it the United States of America,
So
actually.
250 years ago.
Yeah,
Probably.
around that, like my eighth or ninth grandfather, he was, fought in the American Revolutionary War. So my family was in America before it was America, and they were from the people that settled in America, built America, and so I guess that's as much as American as you can be. But we can say that, of course, our roots are in Germany.
That's interesting.
Obviously.
Your roots are in Germany, then you're born in Pennsylvania, and now you live in Najaf. And the interesting fact is also, you told me, you are the only real American theologian here in whole Iraq. Because there are a lot of students coming from
Right.
America here to Najaf and study Islam, but you are the only real American.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Obviously, there are quite a few students that are from the United States or from America, but they're originally Pakistani,
Yeah.
Iranian, Iraqi, Lebanese, Arab. But maybe there are a few who are, I guess you could say European Americans, right? Like I'm a European American, obviously. So I guess there's very few that, especially that are converts as well. I mean, there might be a couple, but I really haven't met them. I've heard, there's one here, one there. But according to what's apparent to me right now, I really don't know anybody else that is like me.
I live here for 2 years by now in Najaf, and I've never seen any American sheikh by now.
Yeah.
And but now I think it's maybe interesting for our viewers also.
Right.
How did it come that you, a guy from Pennsylvania, came to Islam and then moved all the way to Najaf? And it's one thing to convert to Islam and then Shia Islam, and another thing to move all your life to Najaf and study under these hard conditions, which we will talk about soon.
Right.
What is the story behind this?
Well, in summary, as I told you, I'm from a very religious family, so I have that religious basis foundation in my life to begin with, as opposed to some families in modern times where religion is nothing. Even basic things that we knew growing up, like the story of Adam and Eve, Noah and the Ark. Most people today, in some very liberal families with no religion whatsoever, have no idea what that even is. Story of creation, etc., according to Christians or whatever other religion. So anyways, I was started in my religious education at a very young age, studying in, Christian religious schools, whether in the church or in, boarding schools or in private Christian schools, for example. I've always had a very, strong drive for religious education, theology, learning about these historical events that happened and things like that, and all that type of stuff.
So you basically believed in all this you've learned about Christ and Jesus, etc.
Yeah.
Didn't you couldn't you relate to all this?
Well, I mean, obviously, as I got older, you start to question certain things, and certain things don't make a whole lot of sense, and you start to hear the arguments from people who maybe don't believe in God, for example, atheists and the like. So naturally, I started having questions. But a lot of the times, growing up in a place like I did, you don't really get questioned by a whole lot of this stuff. You don't think about it much because it's all you know. So when somebody wants to change their life around, for example, or to become more religious in an area that I come from, well, you go to church. You ask for forgiveness, you go to church, you pray to God, and you try to change your ways, or you try to be a better Christian, you try to be a better person. And people just, culturally, where I'm from, they know, well, going to church is a good thing. It's about community. It's about being good and taking care of people, et cetera, et cetera. So it's, that's really all I knew. When you talk about religion, I mean, other than that, like the name Islam never even came up except on the news when people are talking about wars in the Middle East and 9/11 and that type of stuff. And as Christians, we kind of just believe everything the guy on the podium's saying, right? And, they're free to interpret the Bible in any way that they wish. So we kind of just, based all our religion on that. But obviously, studying religion more and getting more involved in the church and maybe even becoming somebody who used to speak in church from time to time
Really? Okay.
and teach other people. Yeah, I obviously became more in depth in my studies, and long story short, as I got older, I obviously went to other cities where there's more ethnic groups of people, there's diverse groups of people, Muslims, Jews, etc. And I think the first time I ever spoke to a Muslim, I was maybe only 20 years old. So I went 20 years or so without ever knowing a single Muslim my entire life. Not a single one.
Yeah, if you're in some sort of a bubble, you don't have the possibility to get to know some other way of thinking, And interesting, these facts I didn't know from you, that you also were into teaching
Yeah.
the Bible. What's now interesting for us to see is, how did you switch to thinking about Islam? What was your first confrontation with Islam, and how did it come that you moved so far?
Well, I got into a confrontation with a brother who was an Islamic speaker, right? He was turned out to be Salafi,
Yeah.
Sunni Salafi person, and I don't know if he studied abroad in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, or in Morocco, somewhere like that. I think that's where he studied. Anyways, we had this conversations, and he was just telling me about the oneness of God. He said, "You Christians don't have the oneness of God." I said, what does that even mean, the oneness of God? What are you talking about? We have the Trinity, and it's one. He said, and we started getting into this discussion about, well, three can't be one. You can't have three things, put them into one, and say it's one thing. And you can't have the Holy Spirit, you can't have the Son and the Father and say that they're one thing, but you're classifying them as different things. And a long discussion took place. And anyways, long story short, I got like an English copy of the Quran. I started reading, and even just when I first opened this English copy of the Quran, I said, this is nothing what I expected to be in here. It's like,
What did you expect?
honestly, I didn't know what to expect. I just assumed it would be, maybe similar to the Bible a little bit, and they would have like their, we would have our laws written in it and things like that. I mean, obviously, we know what the Quran is now, but back then it was just something just very strange feeling. I said, I don't know what this book is that I have. What am I looking at here?
And did you have any assumptions about Islam, or any prejudices or whatnot? Did you have any bad viewings from the media about Islam, or have you been completely a blank piece of paper about Islam?
I mean, no, in the beginning, obviously, like we hear things here and there, obviously, and preachers in the church, like they mention things about Islam. But I remember one guy used to say, one of these preachers, pastors that I studied with from time to time, he would say, Muslims worship the moon, and all and all kind of stuff like that. I was like, oh wow, that's no good.
Like werewolves.
Yeah,
Falling
so
to the
something
moon.
like that. And these are the types of ignorant things that a lot of people believe, and views about like we have to kill everybody who doesn't believe in Islam. We need to blow things up and all that kind of stuff. And anyways, so I just started learning more about Islam, and I just saw this as a religion that has a whole lot of ins and outs that I have no idea about. I have no clue what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I can't really speak about Islam at that point because I had no idea what I was talking about. But what I did know was that after talking to them, I say, listen, we believe in Adam and Eve, we believe in Noah, we believe in Abraham, we believe in Isaac, we believe in Ezekiel and all these different types of prophets. The prophet Joseph. All these stories we believe in. Obviously, we have different, a little bit we have some differences in our stories with it, obviously. But they said, this is what we believe in. We believe in all this stuff. And I said, well, Christians believe in that too. And then we start talking about the concept of Jesus being the Son of God. Is he the Son of God? Does God have children? Who is God? And we start getting into these types of discussions. And
With your Salafi friend, right?
Right.
So he basically took you on the hand and showed you the ins and outs of Islam and Quran.
Yeah. So he started teaching me the basics, the bare minimum. And I guess after a short period of time, I said, well, it seems like the right thing to do. It just seems, to be honest with you, I kind of just got bored with Christianity after a while, to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course I was very religious and things like that, but I was so tired of just, being very religious and then for a period of time getting tired of it and then feeling bad about leaving it, then going back to Christianity. I can say I left Christianity, but I can say that, I stopped being so religious for periods of time.
I mean, it's somehow normal, even as a Muslim, that you have ups and downs in your belief and your
Right.
religion. Was it like this, kind of?
Yeah, for the most, I guess you could say like that. Obviously, like there was times like I left the church. Like I want to go live my life. I want to be like everybody else.
Yeah.
I want to go hang out with my friends. I want to, you know, go to parties with people, and I want to,
Like youth.
yeah, just do what all the youth are doing, right?
Yeah.
I want to be normal. Like, why am I going to church all the time? And it's like nobody's cool here. Like this isn't where the cool kids hang out. You know what I mean? So I wanted to be normal. So for a time, I just stopped caring about it. I said, yeah, we're Christian. Okay, whatever. Let me just go, live my life the way I want to. And doing that so many times, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I just feel like there's no like repercussions for them as Christians. Like for the Christian, it's like, yeah, you know what, you shouldn't do this, don't do this, don't do that. But then I said, okay, well, like why? Why shouldn't I do this? Why don't I do this? And it just felt like, I don't know, after some time, it just felt like, man, there's all this passion and singing and praising God and Jesus this and Jesus that. And there's just no, how to put it, there's no like, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no like wow factor to it. There's no, like how like in Islam, like, I've been studying Islam for, over 10 years now. And I can say that, it's like everything, I can find has some sort of reason to it or some sort of, philosophy to it. There's you feel like you feel not just the religious aspect, not just the passion for the religion, but the intellectual aspect to it, the fruits of the history, like this, like I don't know how to explain it.
It has more roots in logic.
Yeah,
I think.
it has roots, logic. It has sort of like, it's not a bland religion. You know what I mean? Obviously, we have a lot of diverse sects of Islam. We have a lot of laws, and you can look in the Christian religion. There's not even any scholars anymore. There's no scholarly aspect to it anymore. To be honest with you, as long as you're somebody who can speak beautifully and passionately and speak from the heart, you can pick up the Bible and get up on stage, and you can be named the greatest preacher of all time overnight. Like unfortunately many people do over there nowadays.
Yeah.
And it just felt like, a religion that I starting to feel like I can't get past some of these things that are, bothering me about it. Some of these holes that are in the religion, and so I guess I started looking for a different religion, but all I knew was Christianity. I said, well, obviously, Buddhism's not really, I don't really, have any connection with that. I don't see any real reason to lean towards that. Or Hinduism, I said, well, I don't really agree with a lot of that stuff. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then, will it be a Jew, Judaism? I said, well, that's also, it's a bit strange as well. I said, I don't really find any logic with that. I have issues with that. And then, well, what about Islam? I said, well, don't they worship like an Arab man in the sky that's brown and he has a turban and things like that? Because these are the things a lot of like Westerners where I come from believe. Like they say, like Islam has, they have a God, but they call him Allah. And they say he lives in the sky and he's a brown guy, he wears a turban and he wears dish dash, robes. And this is the type of ideas that people have about Islam in the West, especially where I come from. So thankfully I was confronted by this brother, the Salafi brother, that kind of started to give me at least an introduction to what Islam really was.
And what was the point where you've actually decided to, okay, I want to convert and move in this path? Especially you didn't just convert, you converted and moved directly into the path of
seeking knowledge,
being some kind of a scholar.
Well, I guess, in the beginning, I felt the basic reason was first and foremost, I said, Christianity just seems kind of like bland to me now. It has nothing, there's really nothing to it anymore. And the religion of Islam, I felt that like their concepts are stronger. At least if I can't understand it entirely right now, I can feel that their concepts are stronger. So the concept between the Trinity and oneness. Obviously, God is one. There's nothing like him. He created everything. We are all his creations. To put it in a very simple way, that's it. Not, well, we have the Holy Spirit who lives inside every believer, every Christian. And then we have the Son, who's actually the Father, who came down from heaven. But he's the Father as well, but he's also the Son. And at the same time, he's living inside each and every Christian. And then he died, and then he rose again, and then he went to heaven. So we're thinking, the average person, how do I grasp this concept?
You just have to believe in it, you know. You cannot ask for a logical reason.
And then you ask them about this, and it's the same answer. You just got to have faith. As for Islam, we can make it clear and simple. We say, no, God is one thing. He's unlike anything. He's not created. He's nothing like the creation. He's one. He's the creator. He's the almighty, all-wise, etc. That's it. No son, no children, no father, no this, no that, no spirit inside me, you, anybody. That's it. Right? You know, as I say in the Quran, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. There's nothing like him whatsoever. As opposed to Christianity, they'll say, yeah, there's nothing like him. But they also say he's a father, he's a son, he's inside me, he's over here, he's over there, he died, he rose again, he's, you know, so this is, this is basically the point, you know, I guess you could say the key point that led me to become a Muslim. And this was, you know, over 10 years ago. So, yeah.
So you converted, and what did you do directly afterwards? Did you stay in America, or was the idea to go somewhere else?
Well, I stayed in the U.S. for some time. I just felt that, you know, it wasn't really working out for me in the U.S., obviously. Being a Muslim, I was trying hard how do I put this? I was trying hard to abide by my religion and these new laws that I'm following, you know, and things like, you know, finding halal meat, for example. I said, where do I go?
Yeah, it's difficult, I think, there, because especially in a Christian society.
I live in a community where the closest masjid is maybe over an hour away, hour and a half, 2 hours, and you know, the closest mosque is over 2 hours away, and there's no halal meat shops. There's no meat shops anywhere. There's no Muslims anywhere. There's no. I said, well, how do I live like this?
Wasn't there even a Salafi community somehow?
No, I mean, these people that I met, you know, in the beginning, they were they were from Philadelphia, which is like a couple hours away from where I grew up. Yeah, so it's very far distance.
And your family, what did they say? And were they okay with it, or did you have struggles with them?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm a type of person, when I do something, I do it 100%. So when I became Muslim, obviously, like most converts, you want to embrace your new Muslim identity. So you want to start growing a beard out for the men, right? You want to start,
How long was your beard?
I didn't trim it for a while. I mean, obviously, I was younger back then. I really didn't have a beard. I really still don't now, to be honest with you. But yeah, you grew.
But I assume it was longer than this one.
I don't think so. No, not really. It didn't grow that long in the beginning. I was still a young kid, basically a teenager. Yeah, and so yeah, you want to start dressing like the Muslims, and obviously with the Salafi community, you know, you want the beard, you want to wear the dishdasha, and you know a lot of the Salafis they wear their pants really short, etc. And you're wearing the kufi cap on your head all the time. And my mother saw this, and she was just not happy. I think my mom probably didn't talk to me for almost a year.
Oh man.
Maybe 6 months or something like that. Yeah, she was not happy about it.
But alhamdulillah, right now, it's so interesting that she accepts it. You have good relationship with your mother.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I mean, you know, thank God. Later on, it got better. Obviously, she just got used to it, and obviously, a lot of people, I think, they thought in the beginning it's probably just a fad. You know, it's just a trend you're going through.
Okay.
Just like a lot of kids, you know, some kids, they want to start listening to, you know, rap music. They go through the rap phase. They start listening to the hip hop and all that stuff, and then they want to become more of like a goth kid. They start wearing the black clothes and listening to heavy metal music, and then they go to another phase. They want to be a basketball player. They put their whole life about basketball or football, for example. You know, so I guess my mom thought it might be a fad. But here I am, 10 years later, and I live halfway across the world. So But
And where did you move? So you converted and
Well,
you've thrown yourself into this Islam Salafi stuff, and then how how did you
well,
move
so
out
so
from?
so basically, I mean, in the U.S., I studied a bit with some students of knowledge over there, um, and I studied some of the Salafi books, with some brothers over there, and I went over a lot of their content, and thankfully, I ended up meeting a brother who was also Sunni. Um, he was, but he was an Ash'ari, from the Ash'arites,
Yeah,
or also Sufi-like type
yeah.
of Sunni, like the more common moderate Sunnis, Sunni Muslims that we know today.
Just to mention, it's so interesting um, that you have not only four schools of law, Hanafi, Hanbali, Maliki, Shafi'i, but you also have more schools of thought, like Ash'ari, Athari, Maturidi, whatnot.
Yeah,
And the
well,
mix makes it so complicated.
yeah, well, I mean, those four madhabs that you mentioned in the beginning, the Hanbali, the Shafi'i, the Hanafi, the Maliki, these are in terms of fiqh, in
Yeah,
terms of jurisprudence.
yeah.
As for the Ash'ari and the Maturidi, these are in terms of
Theological,
theology,
yeah.
in terms of the theological views. Obviously, you have, the Mu'tazilites, for example, and then you have the Salafis, right, who obviously have their own type. They go about fiqh in their own way, their jurisprudence in their own way. They go about their theology in their own way, following Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab and Ibn Taymiyyah,
Yeah.
for example. But anyways, I studied a lot of that stuff with some of these brothers, this Salafi type of books, in terms of their theology and in their jurisprudence in a lot of ways. But at the end of the day, I ended up, I came across one brother. This guy, these Salafis told me stay away from this guy. He's a well-known brother. He studied in Lebanon for like 10 years or something like that.
And he was Shia.
No, he was an Ash'ari. He was a Sunni, but not
Okay.
Salafi, right? Obviously, he was somebody who used to always combat and refute the Wahhabi Salafi
Okay.
views, right? And this person, he was very, very extremely knowledgeable person. He basically really introduced me to really studying in a proper method. He introduced me into understanding, the science of tajweed, reciting the Quran properly. I memorized some of the Quran with him. He taught me, some Arabic grammar and morphology, syntax and things like that. He taught me the Ash'ari creed, their theology. He taught me jurisprudence according to Ash-Shafi'i. And basically, I was studying classical texts with him for a little bit, or at least getting me started in these studies. And he was basically kind of took me away from that Salafi mindset and brought me into, I guess you could say, the
more
path
moderate.
of really seeking knowledge.
Yeah.
Because he basically showed me these people, as we know, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers know, Salafi Wahhabi movement. Obviously, a lot of them, it's very, obviously their views are incorrect, and they have a lot of this, especially even issues with seeking knowledge. I think in terms of, especially like in terms of like theology, as we say in Arabic, ilm al-kalam, for example. I think they have some deficiencies, obviously, in this field as well. So he basically kind of opened my eyes to a lot of the errors of the Wahhabis and things like that, and their views about Allah, their views about God are incorrect, etc.
And where did you study? Was it somehow online school, or did you move?
It was
to
in
another
person.
country?
No, it was in person, obviously, and we were, there were places in America. Obviously there's Islamic centers, etc. over there in America, where you can study or meet in person, study somewhere, and this was kind of more like a free type of thing, right? But anyways, he got me started in this path of seeking knowledge. And so basically, obviously first converted with these Salafis, and then later on went to the more moderate path, of the Sunnis, of the Ash'aris. And then, yeah.
So you basically converted and then started studying Islam, and as I've known, you moved then to Malaysia to study further, right?
Yeah, after that, I obviously saw my life wasn't really, easy as a new Muslim living in the United States. I know a lot of people can do it, but I felt that it was I wasn't comfortable anymore. So I said, let me move to a Muslim country. And I got in contact with some people, and they said, Malaysia's a good country. It's very open, very clean, nice place to go. They have a lot of Islamic studies there, especially memorizing the Quran. And that's what, at the beginning, I really wanted to memorize the Quran. So I went to Malaysia, and I started studying there, memorizing Quran and keeping up in some other Islamic studies as well. And I studied with some of their scholars there for about a year and a half, 2 years, something like that.
And I have to definitely give you some props because by now your tajweed and your Quran reading skills are better than mine, and I'm born into it.
Yeah,
it's really interesting. It's so interesting. Your Arabic. When I hear you talking to some Arab guys here, it's like you've been born here. You're more Arab, like the most Iraqis here.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously something you have to be passionate about, and then living in it also, you have to kind of put yourself out there with people.
Yeah.
Because I studied Arabic in Malaysia, although maybe I learned a lot of syntax and morphology and things like that, in terms of reading and writing and reciting the Quran even. I mean, it's not enough to learn how to speak to people, obviously, because nobody today speaks classical Arabic, so you have to learn a dialect in terms of speaking with people on a day-to-day basis as well. So, I mean, that came later on when I moved to Iraq, when I came to Najaf. So, but obviously I became a Shia when I was in Malaysia. I think I told you this.
Yeah.
I became a Shia when I was in Malaysia after, during my time doing some historical studies, about the, Bab al-Zahra alayhi salam, peace be upon Zahra, and what happened to her and what happened to her house.
Saqifa, all that.
Saqifa, the issue of al-Khilafah after the martyrdom of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alih, peace be upon him and his family. Obviously, I started having, I keep going. I became a Muslim. I said, great. And then I found these guys aren't right. I said, okay, I went with these guys, these Ash'aris. And now I'm figuring out, whoa, now all of that is wrong. And I'm, wait. I was worried because, from both of them, the Salafis and the Sufis type of people, they always say, Shia, just do not go anywhere near the Shia. Whatever you do, just don't go anywhere near the Shia.
And this triggered you.
Well, I stayed away from it because I was worried, because even I remember even in some Christians even write in books like the Shia believe that Gabriel made a mistake of bringing the message. He gave the message to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi by mistake, and he was supposed to give it to Ali alayhi salam, peace be upon him.
Okay.
And this is what a lot of people say, and even the Sunnis will say this stuff about it. So I was like, no, that's absolutely not right. I'm not going to go anywhere near the Shia.
Especially in Malaysia, because if you openly mention that you're Shia, you are in trouble.
It's illegal, and I believe it's even
also illegal.
It's illegal according to their constitution, to their written laws.
So in Malaysia, you became Shia.
In Malaysia, of all places, I became Shia.
And what happened then?
Well, I mean, at that time, obviously, I was convinced about becoming a Shi'i, and after my research and history, long story short, and some arguments with some of the Sunni scholars over there, my life became more difficult over there. I said, well, now how am I going to live here? Now it's difficult here.
And what kind of difficult? What happened?
I mean, where am I? Every time I want to pray, you have to pray according to taqiyya, dissimulation. I have to, hide my faith. I want to pray in a masjid, I have to pray like them. And my issue was that I was studying Shafi'i fiqh, and I was memorizing the Quran that I prayed, Salat al-Taraweeh. I was the Imam al-Taraweeh.
You also were an Imam there?
And I was, prayed Salat al-Jama'ah. I prayed congregational prayers for people. I taught people as well. I used, so when somebody studies, then you go back and teach a little bit, and people ask me questions about jurisprudence. I'm answering according to Shafi'i.
Although you became Shia?
Although I became a Shia.
Oh, man.
And then I remember there were so many times that, like, I would go to pray, and I'm praying, I'm home by myself, and I'm praying according how we do, but when I go to the masjid, I have to pray like this. And sometimes I forget, and I have to be careful.
Although you always can say you're Maliki and you switch.
Yeah, but even then they find it offensive because they don't understand that. They don't understand the differences according to different schools, of thought. So, yeah, it was. I found it more difficult. So basically, I felt, well, like, got to leave here now as well.
Was your life somehow threatened there, or did you get? I think sooner or later some people noticed that you became Shia,
I
right?
mean, some people did find out, and it became an issue. And some people, they'll go report you to the religious authorities and things like that. And obviously, it just, at the end of the day, I wanted to study my religion properly. And where am I going to study my religion properly here? I'm going to study Sunni books again. I'm going to, I want to, I'm a Shi'i now. I want to study according to the Shia. I'm looking online where the Shia go to study. And I'm just looking Hawzat in Najaf. So first of all, what's a Hawzat? Secondly, what's Najaf? Where's Najaf? I'm looking online. I said, how do I get? And they say, yeah, it's all free, everything. You come to Najaf, you just bring yourself. And I said, sign me up. Where's this? And so basically, I ended up getting out of Malaysia, but it was around the time I didn't, couldn't really come to Iraq directly back then.
Why not?
Issues with the visa, and I
visa,
think it was the beginning of the coronavirus as well, if I remember correctly. So anyway, I got in contact with some Shia online on Facebook, and there was a Bahraini brother. He said, "No, come to my house. You can stay with me and my family."
Here in Najaf.
No, this was in Bahrain.
Ah, okay.
And I said, "Really?" I said, "This is the first time I was introduced to this to the hospitality of the Arabs of the Middle East." And I said, "This can't be real, but whatever it is better than staying here in Malaysia." Mm-hmm. So basically, I ended up leaving Malaysia, and I went to Bahrain, and lo and behold, this guy's waiting for me at the airport in his car. He said, "No, come on to my house and stay with us as long as you'd like." And mashallah, I mean, I ended up staying with them for 7 months.
Really?
Rent-free in their house. They gave me a room, a place to stay. They were very great people, mashallah. And I ended up continuing my studies as well online in a house, studying in English in some online houses, as well as going there, meeting some Shia scholars, going to majalis and learning about the Shia culture, getting engulfed in the Shia culture.
It was the first time you have been in a Shia community,
environment, and I said, mashallah, I mean, this is amazing. I said, I'm around all these Shia all the time. I'm going to the Husayniyah. I'm going to the majalis, the gatherings to mourn Imam Hussein, peace be upon him, and I'm feeling the culture of the Shia now, and I get to meet these scholars and all these other things and speak with them, and where do I study? Where do I go to study? I want to study, and of course they have some houses in Bahrain, but the advice I got, they said, brother, if you want to study properly, you have to go to Najaf al-Ashraf. Mm-hmm. I said, really? Well, so I said, well, how do I go to Najaf? They said, pick up your bag and go. This is what most people do. From all students from all over the world, they just take what they have and just come to Najaf.
And then you moved to Najaf.
Basically, yeah. Long story short.
2020, right? Or
2021, something like that. I don't remember exactly. It's been around 5 years if we're in 2026, something like that.
Yeah.
Been around that time. A little before, a little after. I don't keep track anymore.
So fascinating, You first were a Christian, then you converted to Islam, Salafi Islam, then you moved to Hanafi, Shafi, and then you became Shia, and then it's so interesting because you've said you had the feeling of jumping from one thing to another, but eventually this is the only way to get to know the truth. Most people think, okay, I converted, I have the truth and I'm finished. But actually, if you convert into Islam, your job is not done. It starts right now. You never have to stop and search further for the truth. And even when you come into the Shia, you have to not stop searching. And this is so interesting, which your path. I've never seen something. I've met a lot of people who converted, and a lot of my friends are converts. But your story especially is so interesting because you've made such a huge turnaround and then came to the heart of the Shia here in Najaf. And yeah, it's fascinating.
It's funny that my mom always used to tell me, she always used to say that everything you do it 150%.
That's right.
You do it 1,000%. You said you're very extreme in what you do. They said, if you want to do something, there's no telling you no. And you're not just going to do it. You're going to do it. That's all you do. You eat, sleep, and drink that thing. Yeah. And obviously, in some aspects, it's not necessarily a good thing, right? I mean, remember back when I was younger, I wanted to get in shape. All I did was go to the gym. All I did was read about health. All I did was watch health stuff on TV. All I did was watch about lifting weights and all this stuff. And, you know, or like even when I was a kid, my mom said, if you liked Power Rangers, for example, she said that's all you did. 24 hours a day, all you did was talk about Power Rangers, play with the toys, draw pictures of them. That's all you did. And so thankfully, when I came to Islam and I found this path of seeking knowledge that is, it's actually endless. You know, I just 100% all the time. I can never be fulfilled with it. It's just, you know, I can put all my effort into it, and it turns out to be a good thing to do things, you know, 100% all the time.
You know, it's interesting. Although you have a completely different path than mine, I can relate so much to your story because it's somehow similar. You know, my story is a little bit different. I am born as a Muslim, right? And I always say that I converted from Islam to Islam because most of the Muslims who are born into the religion don't even know anything about the religion.
Right.
And I had the pleasure to get a lot of knowledge from my parents, but despite this, I decided somehow to start from blank zero and study again all the books, starting from Quran to Nahj al-Balagha and all this. And as you say, 150%. I also have this problem that when I'm dedicated to something, I cannot do just 100%. I have to go all in. And one of the steps was also to come here to Najaf. And you're here for 5-6 years. I'm here probably 2 years right now. And how does it feel for you? I can afterwards tell you how I feel about moving to Najaf. But you've been to so many different places, have experienced so many different religions somehow. How is it to be now a Shia living in the heart of the Shia in the world in Najaf?
I can first by saying it's very hot.
Yeah.
Very hot.
Right now we have 47 degrees out there.
One of the things, you know, I tell people, they ask me to say, I want to come to Najaf, Sheikh, and I said, well, I hope you can deal with the heat.
Yeah.
And not always having, you know, air conditioning.
Yeah.
So it's something you got to get used to. But I mean, to be honest with you, at first, I mean, first thing I did, first day I come to Najaf, where are the classes? What do I study? You know, where do I start? Where do I begin? And thankfully, I had like a bit of, you know, prerequisite knowledge before coming to Najaf. You know, obviously I studied quite a bit in terms of like logic, grammar, morphology, etc. So when I came to Najaf, I got acquainted with some teachers and started my studies right away, and it just kind of felt like home. You know, it just felt like I said, yeah, this is it. This is where I'm supposed to be.
This is so interesting what you said, brother, because the same thing I felt the same thing when I came here to Najaf. It felt, I'm born in Germany, right? I have been there over 30 years. When I came here, it felt that I've all my life, hundreds of years lived here in Najaf, and I've been just for 30 years in Germany, and I've come back to my roots. It's so although I'm not Iraqi, I'm Iranian from my parents' side, but it feels so like something has been here ever before. It's a very interesting feeling.
I mean, do people also tell you like you're crazy for coming here? You're from Germany, you're from Europe. Why on earth why do you want to come to Najaf? Do you get this question a lot as well?
Nearly every day when I'm in the taxi or so, the people say, how can you come? Every one of us moves from Iraq to Germany or to Europe, and you come from Europe to Iraq, you know? And a friend of mine gave a very beautiful answer. He said he answered for me. He said he moved from the earthly Jannah, from the earthly paradise, to the Ukhrawi paradise, to the paradise of the hereafter. And it's really, you know, Germany, Europe is very clean. You have no electricity issues like here. So probably in a few minutes the electricity will go out. So if the light goes out, people, don't be surprised. It's typical here. Every few hours the electricity from the state goes out, and then the generator in the street has to make up the electricity. But you know, Europe is you know it from America, right? You have everything you have. You don't have issues in a kind of electricity, water. All this is there, but you have some cold feeling there. Which you have.
Yeah, obviously you don't have like a lot of hospitality in a lot of places. You don't have, you don't really say hi to people on the street that you know. I mean, I lived in my community back there in America growing up for 20 years, and I'll be honest with you, there are some neighbors, I never met them. Don't even know what their names were. And I'm from a small town where we know everybody. But even then, even though you know everybody, you don't necessarily have a relationship with everybody. I had neighbors here in Najaf that second, third day, I know everything about this person.
And not even that. I mean, before I moved here, I've been so many times here for ziyarah. And when you come here, you charge your spiritual batteries, especially if you go to the shrine, and then you go back to your home in Germany, and all this melts away in a couple of days. And when you live here, you constantly have this full battery.
Right.
And you cannot explain this, how this life here in Najaf
Even
is.
going to other parts of Iraq, you feel like that, I think. I don't know if you've been to other parts of Iraq, but even when you go to other parts of Iraq, you feel a bit of emptiness, right? Because you're no longer in Najaf. I know for me, like days where I don't have class, I can't come to the shrine, I can't sit in my lessons, I just feel like just tired. I said, I just want to go. So just want to go to class. Like even if it's just one class, I'll come all the way just to sit in class for half an hour, or come to the shrine, go for ziyarah, visit the imam, peace be upon him, and
especially the shrine. Everyone here also tells the same, that the shrine of Imam Ali feels somehow different than the other shrines in a way that it feels like your grandparents' living room. You feel so comfortable. When you, for example, go to Karbala, you're always in a stress, in a hurry. You go to Abu Fazl Abbas and then you go back to Imam Hussein. It's so large, it's like Mecca somehow. Yeah. But when you're here in Najaf, in the shrine of Imam Ali, you could have all the problems in the world, and then you go to the shrine and everything washes off.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember the first time I ever went for a ziyarah here, and it was just, mashallah. I mean, I don't know what to say. It was just so, like, I remember just, man, I looked at these pictures online for all the time, seeing all these pictures of the shrine and the grave of Imam Ali, peace be upon him, and all this stuff. But when I finally got here, it's like, man, it's just a very surreal feeling. And so all the time, now, like, when I go to the shrine, it's more like, how do I put it? Nowadays, when I go, it's more like, it's just like everything is just kind of like, it's like, how to put it? It's just like it feels like this is your home specifically. It feels like it's your house. You know what I mean? Like after you come from like a long road trip and you finally come home and you open the door, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm home now. I sit on my own couch. I can sit on my own, bed. I can go to my own bathroom. Like when you go to the shrine, for me personally, it's like this is home. When I enter in through those security checkpoints, I mean, I feel like I'm walking through my own living room. You know what I mean? It becomes your home. And I guess that's an answer to some people's question: why so many people come to Najaf and they become scholars and they just stay in Najaf, and they just live there. They get a house next to the imam, and they just stay there, and then they never leave. Some people understand it and some people don't, and unfortunately, some people probably never will understand it. But
the interesting thing is that although it has so many benefits, spiritual benefits to live here, it's definitely so hard.
Like how, for example?
It's hard that so many people want to live in Najaf, but they cannot cope with the pressure, cannot cope with the difficulties here. I mean, just to mention a few, not for the viewers, right? One thing is the water situation. Every building, for example, in Germany, you have water pipes which come down the street, and then you have fresh, cold water in your sink. But here not. Here, the water is pumped up on the roof to a huge water tank.
You can't drink it.
It's hot. Yeah, your cold water in the summer, your cold water is so hot.
There's no such thing as cold water in the summer.
There's no such thing like a cold water. And this is the first problem, that you cannot even get a cold shower because the water is 50 degrees. And the most difficult thing, I think, for all people here is the electricity situation. Because we have basically two types of electricity here in Iraq. We have the watani, which is the electricity from the state, like in Germany also. And we have the generator, which is called muwallida. And especially in the summer season, where you have high demand, you have 2 hours of state electricity, and after that, it goes off.
Hopefully,
Hopefully 2 hours.
hoping you have 2 hours.
And then you have 4 to 5 hours of no electricity where the generator kicks in, but the generator doesn't have so much ampere to run the AC unit.
So many, I think the word you're looking for is ampage or wattage.
Yeah.
The ampage to continue for that long, yeah.
So you have 4 or 5 hours of just maybe ventilators at home, and it gets blazingly. You cannot concentrate on your work because it's so hot. And in the winter, otherwise, it gets so cold in your apartment that these are the problems you have to buy when you move to Najaf.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because most people, foreigners that move to Najaf to live in Najaf, most of them are students of the Hawza, of the Islamic Seminary in Najaf. And I know it's difficult. I mean, honest with you, it bothers me a lot sometimes. I mean, I'm frustrated, I'm hot. But at the same time, I just don't even think about it anymore, honestly. I don't think about it. It doesn't, never, some people say, oh, you left America and you left like this nice house in the middle of the country and your parents' home and you had everything and you had everything you could have ever wanted in America. And to be honest, it's true. You know, I came from a nice enough family that if the sky was the limit, I could have went to college, I could have went to any university, I could have studied hard if I really wanted to, if I could have applied myself, went to Harvard or something. I mean, I could have done anything I wanted to with my life over there. But it just wasn't fulfilling enough, you know. I feel more fulfilled living in Najaf in a simple home, you know, in the simple, you know, Iraqi-style homes that I'm sure you know about, simple concrete, that's it, you know, and even with no electricity, you know, hot water, whatever the case, I mean, it's just something normal to me now. You know, there's a saying they used to say in the Hawza many years ago, when you come to Najaf, you know, there's 3 things you're going to get. Ma'ul bi'r, which is well water, khubz al-sha'ir, which is it's barley bread, and I don't know how to explain to people, not the bread we have now that they call barley bread. It's so hard that it's nearly impossible to eat it. And then the third thing was ziyarat al-amir. So they say ma'ul bi'r, khubz al-sha'ir wa ziyarat al-amir. And the visitation of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali, peace be upon him. This is only 3 things you're going to get in Najaf.
Exactly.
Other than that, there's nothing else. And to be honest with you, I mean, when I used to hear that stuff, I said, I don't care. I said, that's all I want. I don't need anything else. I don't want food. I don't want water. I just want to study. I want to live next to the Imam, and I want to study Islam. That's what I want to do. That was my goal in life. Because, you know, I was so, you know, enlightened and inspired by all these stories of the scholars we used to hear about that stayed up late nights reading and writing. And, you know, for us, we complain about how hard it is now. What about 100 years ago, hundreds of years ago? Electricity didn't exist. You know, and nowadays we have books. Everywhere you want, you can buy books. Any book you want, you can buy it. You have them downloaded on your phone. You can listen to lessons online. You can record your lessons. Back in the day, I mean, you want a book, you got to go find the one person in a whole city that has the book, and you got to rewrite that book by hand, so you have a copy. And that's if you could find paper and a pen to write it with. And if you could find it, can you afford to buy it? So it's like, you know, nowadays, yeah, it's difficult. Obviously, there's a lot of issues in terms of what's what I'm looking for, you know, utilities for the people and your living accommodations. Obviously, it's not ideal compared to the rest of the world. Even
compared to Karbala. I mean, Karbala is just an hour away, but it has more opportunities, more better infrastructure. And exactly, you know, I'm not in the house, I'm not studying here, but I've met a lot of guys who study here, and after 1, 2, 3 years, they cannot cope with it and move back, because you have to be really impassioned like you about this studying,
and that's
so that you have the endurance.
I mean, sorry to cut you off there, Sayyidina, but that's a point that I wanted to mention. Why you asked why there's no more people like you here? Well, a lot of them, some people do come from the West, and they come for a couple months, and they say, well, that's it. I'll see you later. Or if they do come, they're not here ever. They're here for a couple months out of the year, and they're traveling back and forth between America and here, UK and here, Canada here, Australia and here. And at the end of the, I mean, obviously, I wish people who do these things, I wish them the best of luck in everything that they do, and I want the best for them. But at the same time, I sometimes think, I said, how much studying does people really accomplish? You know, you're always worried about your living situation. You're worried about going back here, and, you know, you're leaving all the time, and you're traveling. And so yeah, you're right. It is very few. And I might be the only one that's just, I'm sitting here in Najaf, and that's what I plan to do, you know, and I plan to stay here and live here and study probably for the rest of my life. I don't really know anything else, and I don't really want to do anything else, to be honest. You know.
To be honest, I personally cannot imagine to live here all my life. I have a mission here, I have some goals here, but especially we both have family, we both have a child.
Right.
It's difficult to live with a family in such situations. And how does your family cope with it? And yeah, my family is knowing that someday we will move away
Right.
in another country. How is it about you? Could you imagine to go back to America and maybe do their majalis, like a lot of English-speaking muammams and sheikhs, or do you want to stay here all your life and maybe become marja one day? Who knows?
Well, first of all, I don't really have that much of a connection with doing what's the word I'm looking for in English? You know, we say in Arabic tabligh.
Doing advertising,
You
the
know,
religion,
missionary style
Yeah.
work, advocating for the religion in the English language and traveling here and there and all over the place. I'm not comfortable doing that. I wish people who do it the best of luck, and I believe we really need this. But at the same time, for me personally, it's not something that I'm really passionate about. To be honest with you, I mean, I like to teach people the religion, but I'm obviously a person who's very specific in my way of doing things. I really prefer the Hausa style lifestyle. You know, I prefer small groups of students in one circle. I teach them, they teach me. I don't teach in English really much. I do teach in English sometimes to people who aren't very strong in Arabic. But when I teach here in the seminary, I teach students in Arabic.
So you also reached those rankings to also teach.
Yeah,
Right.
every student in Najaf who has studied and finished that level of study, they should go back and teach it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so whether you reach, you know, the beginning, the middle, the end, whatever, you should go back and teach the level before that, right? Because if you finish the book, you know, the presumption is that you have understood the book from beginning to end in its entirety. So you should be able to go back and teach it without a problem. And you should do this so you don't forget.
What's interesting for me in those years I've been here, I've seen that the Iraqis are they're very, very humble and genuinely good people. Really,
Right.
I've never seen such a culture of being warm to strangers. But one thing I've seen, they are very suspicious. It's very hard to get their trust, especially if you're not from inside them. The interesting question I have, you as a blue-eyed American from Pennsylvania, here living in Najaf, especially in the Hausa where all are Iraqis, didn't you have any problems with the people maybe saying you're an American spy or whatnot from CIA or something? Didn't you have such stories like this?
I mean, yeah, I guess a little bit. It was. I don't want to make it paint a picture that's worse than what it seems, you know. But obviously, people gossip and talk and things like that. And I came to Najaf, and probably till this day, people still have things to say, but because they can't wrap their head around, you know, it's not. No, why is he here? Really, why is he here? Why is this guy coming from America here?
It's hard to fathom. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, but for intellectual people and for the religious person, you know, Allah yahdi ma yasha. Allah guides whomever He wills, you know. So it's obviously. I mean, I don't think it's strange because it's something that I want to do. I just see it as like, yeah, I just came here because I want to study. I don't feel like I did anything amazing. Although people say it's amazing, I feel like I'm just doing, you know, what I want to do. You know.
So you're not a spy.
No, I'm not a spy. And if I was a spy, I'm sure not getting paid enough. So, you know, so it's, yeah, people say these types of crazy things and all, but, unfortunately, but that just comes from ignorance. And majority of the people don't think like that, I think.
How is your life in the Hausa? I mean, the Hausa is a very, very conservative place, and you get to learn all those studies and lessons from hundreds and hundreds of years ago. I mean, it's a very old school type of learning. What are the main things you learn in the Hausa, and what not? Because why I'm asking this, because people oftentimes think that in the Hausa you learn everything in the Islamic history from A to Z. Is it like this, or do you have to make some homework on your own? What do you learn, and what is the things you don't learn in the Hausa?
To paint you a very brief picture, the Hausa is composed of different levels. First of all is Muqaddimat, which is the beginning studies. Then you have what's called sutuh, which is like your intermediary studies. And then you have sutuh al-ulya, which is your advanced intermediate studies. Then you have bahth al-kharij, which is your very advanced studies.
That's the highest level, right?
That's the final stage that you'll study in the hawza. And the beginning level obviously is mainly composed of what? Arabic morphology, Arabic syntax, grammar, reading the Quran, obviously, tajweed, recitation of the Quran. You'll learn a little bit of theology, and obviously jurisprudence, fiqh, right? And also logic, mantiq, as we say in Arabic. And these things compose your muqaddimat. And the hawza obviously is designed specifically for jurisprudence and the fundamentals of jurisprudence, fiqh wal usul. Then when you get to the second level of the hawza, you go, every book, you finish, there's another book higher than that. So basically in fiqh, after that you'll study a harder book in fiqh. And maybe another harder book in terms of logic and Arabic grammar, etc. And then you'll get introduced to the fundamentals of jurisprudence. And then you keep going on and on from there. And for the most part, you're going to remain the rest of your life in the hawza, specifically studying fiqh and usul, jurisprudence and the fundamentals of jurisprudence. Obviously, if you want to specialize in some of these other things like grammar, logic, philosophy even, I mean, you have to kind of find specific teachers for that on your own, that'll expand on these topics a bit more than what's common in the hawza, in the seminary. Other things like history, for example, reading books of ziyarat and ad'iyah, the books of supplications and visitations of the imams. Like, for example, you want explanations of I don't know, give me a name of a book. I'm losing my train of thought here. Nahj al-Balagha, for example, talking about, the narrations of Imam Ali, for example. It's studied in the hawza, but I can't tell you that's the core curriculum of the hawza, right? If you want to study Nahj al-Balagha, like I studied parts of Nahj al-Balagha, with a specific teacher who's known for Nahj al-Balagha, right? Or if you want to study a book like, for example, about history, you maybe can find some teachers that'll teach history a little bit here and there.
But it's not mandatory to do this.
No, it's not mandatory. And to be honest with you, most students, a lot of this, once you have these tools of Arabic grammar and morphology and Arabic eloquence, yani al-balagha, and you know about theology a bit and philosophy and like all this types of stuff. A lot of these books you can go read through them. Like, for example, a book in history, for example. You could read through it, understand it, right? And get your ideas about history. And there's so many books in every subject, millions of books written. And they're all sold here in Najaf. If there's one thing in Najaf you can find, it's books. There's books all over Najaf. So you can expand your knowledge in these aspects as well, and other things that maybe aren't taught in the hawza really very commonly.
So if we have basically two students studying for 10 years, in the end they could be completely different in their types of knowledge and their specialization.
Yeah, I mean it's really up to you what you want to do with it, but I gave you the core idea of Najaf is to become a scholar in jurisprudence and the fundamentals of jurisprudence. This is the core studying in the hawza, and this is the reason the hawza exists, is to become, because you see somebody who is a marja of taqleed, this is somebody that, this is like the houses to produce people like this, ideally. Obviously, you have maybe your other interests, like, for example, philosophy or logic or Arabic grammar. You can always expand more on that on your own, but that's going above and beyond what's commonly taught in the hawza, right? Because obviously you study these other subjects in the beginning, your muqaddimat, your intermediary, to take what you need to study in jurisprudence and the fundamentals of jurisprudence. But if you want to go more than that for your own preferences, or you feel that it needs more in the hawza, then you can study more Arabic grammar, etc. I mean, there are things that I find useful that we need as studies, in terms of like intellectual discussions and intellectual studies. Like I myself, I've taken some studies in mathematics in Najaf as well,
really?
In the seminary, which obviously back in the day, this was something commonly taught among scholars, studying mathematics, algebra, geometry. I've taken some stuff in this as well, just because I personally feel that it helps, my intellect and in certain intellectual discussions and, problem solving here and there. I think it's very beneficial. So, but that, if you ask anybody else in the house right now, they'll tell you mathematics. What are you talking about? So, yeah, you have the freedom to study what it is that you like in Najaf as well. On the side, aside from your core studies, you can take a little bit here and there about, dabble in some other things if you'd like as well.
What are all these? Every time when I walk to the shrine, there are tons and tons of scholars, maybe in the hundreds I see every time. What are all these doing? I ask myself. Do they all teach? Do they all write books or make majalis and lectures?
Right.
What are they doing? Are they all going back to their countries and doing lectures there? What is their mission? I think obviously not every one of them wants to become a marja. What are they doing? I see the necessity for scholars, and most of them have communities where they teach them. But what are most of your friends maybe in the house, what are they doing?
Well, a lot of people, nowadays, they study a couple years, like Iraqis. A lot of them will study for a couple years and go back to their hometown and become a lecturer on the minbar on the pulpit, right, of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. In the majalis, they'll get on and they'll start talking about these types of things. They'll become a lecturer, a speaker, a reader, a writer, something like this. Right? A lot of them do these things and get involved in this tabligh and da'wah work that we spoke about. A lot of them, that's really their goal. But some of them, no. They stay with the traditional idea of the hawza, which is to come study in the hawza, and there's no end to your studies. In reality, even somebody who does become a marja, they don't stop their studies necessarily. They continue to read on their own, open books, learn new things, and obviously they're teaching the highest level students in the houses, so they have their discussions with these high level students in the house on a daily basis. So in a sense, there's really no end to your studies, because this, like I said, this knowledge is endless. There's really no end to it. You can study for 100 years and you wouldn't have finished studying it all.
Yeah.
Right? So, so there's really two ways, either to become a public speaker of some sort or something like this, or just to continue on this path to, teach in the hawza, to study in the hawza, and that's really your goal, is the path that you're on. That's why I tell people, they say, what's your goal? I said, this is my goal. I've reached it. I'm still doing it.
The way is the goal.
It's not about finishing the race. It's about the journey. And the journey, the path that you're doing it, that's what's most important. Because every day I learn something new. I go home, I read it again, I study it, I discuss it with somebody else, and that's it.
It's very interesting to me, brother, because most of the people, even including me, we have a specific goal in future. I want to achieve this, and you don't really get too much focused on the way or the journey you've told. It's interesting for me that being in the hawza, this itself could be the goal, that you constantly improve your knowledge, and it's fascinating to me that kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, I'm thankful for it. It just becomes something for me that I feel that I'm always. I don't think I'll ever be fulfilled if I just have like one goal to reach, because when I reach that goal, okay, well I finished that. I reached my goal. Now what do I do? What do I do next? Right? But as if my goal is something that I've reached it, and it's striving towards something, right? It's a striving in and of itself that's my goal. So I really can never say that I'm finished or that I'm satisfied. But every day you're becoming satisfied with what you're doing, right? Every day is a goal. Today I'm going to study this lesson and understand this class and this page, and that's it. And tomorrow's going to be a new lesson. So I think that's like really fulfilling for me personally.
To wrap it up, what would you say did you learn from living here in Iraq compared to living in America? Because in my case, living here in such a country, it's the Wild West. actually don't have any rules at all.
The Wild
Especially
West.
if you come from Germany, where everything, you have laws for the most stupid stuff. You cannot even imagine how many laws, how many taxes and paperwork. You know, there's this common thing in Germany when the most thing you've always the thing you always are most scared of is coming home from work and then going to your inbox where your mails are, because there's always some invoice you have to pay,
bills
or
and
mails.
some, yeah.
And here there is no postal system at all. You don't have any inbox. You come at home and
Right.
everything is in cash. Even I pay my rent, my smartphone, everything is in cash here. It's so much freedom. It's unbelievable if you come from a country like Germany. And therefore, in my case, it's 180 degrees in another way than compared to Germany. And I feel more free than ever. But I personally learned to live in the day. You know, in Germany you always are worried, oh my God, I have to do this and this paperwork and this and this. You're always living in the future. But here you really learn to live your life. For example, when you go outside in the evening, the people are sitting there having their shisha next to the street. There's a garbage truck going. It's such a mess, but the people are relaxed. They are not so stressed like in Europe. This is the thing I've learned here, to calm down a little bit and enjoy the day. Going to the bazaar, buying some fruits, coming home, doing the same thing the next day. This is, in my case, the thing I've learned here compared to Germany. What would you say did you learn here, or in what kind of way did the life here change your way of life?
Well, I guess it's changed it in a lot of ways and given me a lot of different things to think about. Obviously, like what you said, yeah, it is. It's very relaxed here. It's a very simple life, simplistic life. If you want simple, then living in Iraq is definitely, you know, a simple place, right? Like you said, in the West, very stressful. And I tell people that all the time, that, you know, living in Iraq, I find it better because in the West, it's everything is go, 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 go. And sometimes you just want to relax. You know, obviously, maybe is it too relaxed here? That's a different discussion, you know. But at the end of the day, you know, you can live your life here in a simple way, and you'll be okay. Other ways that I think it's changed me a bit. I mean, obviously, cultural aspects. I mean, you know, I've learned, you know, a lot of different things culturally about how I interact with people, things that I say, different mannerisms. I guess even myself, I learned how to be more hospitable towards other people, because, you know, in the West we don't have that, right? But here, you know, you have to learn to be more like that with people. You have to learn how to be more, to be honest, it's not really, there's no real, what do you call it, introvert, or a person that stays by themselves a lot. I think it's called introvert. Introvert. You can't really be an introvert here in Iraq. Because everybody likes to talk to you. You want to talk to you will have to want to talk to other people. You can't just stay by yourself all the time. So you always have to interact with people. And I think it's, you know, helped me in some certain ways be more, you know, communicational, be able to speak more, to be able to, you know, interact with people more on a daily basis and be more open and out there. I think those are things that have maybe helped change, you know, I think those are some things that have changed about me since I've been here in Iraq. And yeah, like
Beautiful. I think we could go on for hours.
Probably,
it's so
yeah.
fascinating, and it was really a pleasure for me to have you here. Inshallah, in the future we will have other podcasts and talk about different topics. For me it was really interesting, and I hope for you viewers also, that anything is possible. As you've said, Allah guides whom He wants. And it's so interesting that a young boy from Pennsylvania, such a huge journey, and then living here in Najaf, and then becoming a scholar, and now being more Iraqi than the Iraqis who've been born here. It's such an interesting and fascinating story, and this I wanted to share. Thank you for your time.
No problem.
And inshallah,
for having
we
me.
see you on the next podcast.
You as well. Thank you so
Assalamu
much.
alaikum, brother.